Booker T. Washington. While being born as a slave in a plantation located in Franklin County, Virginia, Washington was emancipated at the age of 9. He was soon to be known as a leader in educational and racial issues. Washington attained his passion for learning from his mother. And through Viola Ruffner, General Lewis Ruffner's wife, whom he met while working in the mine industry at 11 years old. At the age of 16, Washington was enrolled in the Hampton Normal and Agricultural Institute, where he also worked as a custodian to help pay fees. The institute was founded by General Samuel Chapman Armstrong, whose intention was to help black students in their studies of trade and their roles as citizens in the Southern culture. He was a huge influence to Washington. Armstrong was held in awe by Washington's intelligence and knew he was going to do great things. Washington graduated and continued to teach using Armstrong's philosophy as a guide. After the city of Tuskegee searched for a new white principal to lead at a Negro normal school they wished to establish, Armstrong recommended Washington. The city agreed, and the school eventually grew from a small house to an institution of up to 2,000 acres and 100 buildings. In 1892, the Tuskegee Negro Conferences helped expand education at the institute by providing crop and farming education. Meanwhile, Washington began delivering speeches and lectures on his view of racial advancement. He believed that brains, property, and character were the main factors for Negroes to be accepted by whites in the South. In fact, his views were quite unusual for a black man of the time. Washington believed that blacks were fine with being separate but equal, and that they ultimately had to display the characteristics of a good citizen to gain favor with whites. Washington gave an iconic speech in September 1895. Here he declared that all blacks should accept segregation and not push for integration of races. It eventually came to be known as the Atlanta Compromise. Washington persuaded the Negroes to cast down your bucket where you are, in every means including education. This was another way of telling blacks to give in to racial segregation that had overpowered the country and in a way give up. His speech acted as a catalyst to the Plessy v. Ferguson case of 1896. The case determined that whites and blacks could remain separate as long as they have equal resources. Around the early 1900s, there were no schools for black children to attend, and they were not allowed to attend the schools of white children. The African American communities of the South were then required to build their own schools and accommodate their own materials with the little money they received from the government. Washington also gained favor with many whites, including President Theodore Roosevelt, who became a close friend of the educator. In contrast to Washington's perspectives on certain issues, W.E.B. Du Bois believed African Americans should have a classical education to prepare them to be leaders, not just cast down their buckets. Unlike Washington, Du Bois wanted to desegregate schools. He was one of the founders of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Washington even gathered supporters who shared his belief that black schools should not be a part of Central Tuskegee. He did believe in the civil and political rights asserted by the Afro-American League Fortune, although he was not public about it. Washington was criticized by many of his own race because of his stance on racial issues. but he was still multi-sided and a great benefactor to American education. He inspired many students and faculty at the Tuskegee Institute with his vibrant and optimistic views of the future of African Americans. Washington constantly stated that hard work and good citizenship would overpower the hatred of the white man. College educators such as Du Bois found it hard to agree with Washington, but educators in the South were able to sympathize with him due to all the pressures of racism that surrounded their communities. One of Washington's greatest successes was the establishment of the Tuskegee Institute and its educational method. He sought to educate blacks in the processes of farming and trade. He taught African Americans of the efficient way of sharecropping, which he stated would get them out of any debt they might be in with struggling to maintain a business in the post-Reconstruction South. Washington was able to use much of the money given by white supporters, but it was mainly the help of Northern organizations that aided in the development of the Tuskegee Institution, the best supported black institution in the country. It was a great school that really helped African Americans get on their feet during the time of Jim Crow laws. Washington is noteworthy in his teaching method because he believed in taking action, not merely teaching students how to read and write. He wished for the blacks in the South to recognize the value of industrial education. Education, Washington believed, should make life more endurable and comfortable, but it does not mean one will not undergo hard work. Freedom from slavery is not necessarily freedom from hard work. In fact, one of his main prospects was that African Americans not be ashamed of doing manual labor due to their sad past. Instead, he believes they should still work hard with their hands so that they will not find themselves without money. Booker T. Washington paved the way for many African Americans. He encouraged all to get their education and work hard in life. He did not only help the African Americans of his time, but the generations of all races to come. His views may have been radical at times, but his goal was to ultimately help education for the nation as a whole. Booker T. Washington once said, "I have learned that success is to be measured not so much by the position that one has reached in life as by the obstacles which he has had to overcome while trying to succeed."